From an Islamic point of view, we worship the one God called Allah. We read the Quran, which is the holy book. What I found interesting about today was I was able to see the different ways people think about religion and science. Although the Quran contains a lot of scientific theories and facts, our dominant way of thinking about worship, the world, is a religious way.
Today has been incredibly inspiring and has left me questioning whether there is an objective truth, in which field, religion or science, it will be discovered, if both or any.
It was a very thought-provoking experience where we could see other people that believed that religion and theology could coexist with science and relativity. So it was very interesting to actually see different people's points of views and very prestigious people as well.
On behalf of St Xavier's, thank you.
My name is Simon Conway Morris. I'm here in Lambeth Palace. I was one of several people on the panel, and we were broadly trying to discuss why science and religion might have some dialogue, because at the moment there is an enormous gulf between either side. It was a very complicated meeting. There was a large amount of discussion, and if I simply said, well, there's a great deal of unfinished business to be done, that we have a whole series of imponderables, that would make it sound rather vague. But perhaps one thing came out very clearly at the end, and this was a comment to do with the very important topic of global warming, because this in a way does bring together what it is to be human, what is the nature of the technological solutions, if there are any, but most importantly, what is our responsibility, irrespective of whether you're a Christian, Muslim, whatever religion, or indeed, if you're an atheist, what are we going to do about it? And if I made any sort of contribution, in part what I was trying to say is that from the aspect of a Darwinian explanation, and I should say I'm an evolutionary biologist, and evolution is true, and Darwin got it right, but you can say, well, maybe these are just the automatic consequences of the way that a planet evolves. As more complex species, more complex societies emerge, so they take over the whole planet, they basically trash it and turn it into a huge farm. What's the problem? Of course there's a problem, because we feel that this is wrong, because we feel that our biosphere is valuable. We even have some self-interest in this. We don't want to fry when it gets too hot for humans to survive in some parts of the planet. So in essence, what came out of this in many different aspects was the possibility that if we are too simplistic, if we erode our narratives so that we have apparently simplistic ways of looking at things, then ultimately we are losing a great deal of what it is to be human. And I think everybody would agree that being religious, even if you don't believe in a God, but the religious instinct of awe, the sense that the world is a wonderful place, is something which we dare not lose. And so I found it a very useful meeting. As I think the Archbishop Rowan himself said, this is just the beginning of a conversation. So it's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Madeline Bunting, I'm the Associate Editor on The Guardian, and I've been attending the session here on science and religion. I think that there were two questions, and they're really sort of simple ones that really helped clarify what we were trying to do. One is, what's the fuss all about? And I think there what we were exploring is how science and religion have been placed in conflict, that a lot of the public debate sees them as completely opposed to each other, that science is winning out against religion, and that religion has nothing more really to offer, it's a failed competitor. Now, I think the Archbishop of Canterbury helped reframe that right at the beginning by saying, another way of looking at this is that there are two different ways of knowing. That here we have two, disciplines of understanding the world, science and religion. And that just as you have history and geography, and they all have their own disciplines, their own skills needed for those ways of questioning and understanding the world, similarly with science and religion. So I found that a very helpful way of thinking about this question. The next one was, well, what's next? If we have this very conflictual debate going on about science and religion, what comes next? And there were some very, very interesting comments on that. For example, Simon Conway Morris suggested that perhaps science was getting to a limit of its own competence and would need religion, or those other aspects of the humanities, and I don't want to paraphrase him crudely here, that would help explain something like consciousness, that mind, what is mind, maybe something that science itself can't answer alone. And this idea that maybe we've come to a point where science can't answer every question. Seemed to me to be another intriguing possibility when John Horton, the climate scientist, talked about this great environmental challenge we all face, the crisis we face, that science has revealed this crisis to us. So science is an enormously important, helpful discipline in understanding the world. But can science help us get out of this, help us deal with this challenge, get out of the mess we've created? And there we went into another very interesting question about relationality, that ultimately religion deals with relationality all the time. It's about how individuals relate to each other, to the universe, how they collaborate and cooperate. And it seemed to me that what Horton was suggesting was that the way in which science has exposed this crisis of interconnectivity, the global crisis whereby environmental catastrophe faces us in so many different directions, we are all so interconnected that at this point we again will need religion, ethical systems, many other forms of other disciplines of understanding if we are to meet the challenge of the environment. So I found those just some of the really interesting aspects of the morning that have really stayed with me, and I think I will want to think about much